Hello, today is Sunday, May 29th, the year 2022. Welcome to First I'm Your Philosopher, the philosophy show that evolved uh, because for 5 years now I have gone to sleep thinking about the population explosion problem as exacerbated by the depletion of oil and gas on planet Earth, and I've woken up thinking about the problem called the population explosion problem as exacerbated by that we don't have any more resources on planet Earth other than the ones that were here before we were born. Philosophers, this is the Prologue show. Philosophers deal with truth. One of the things that we might have been told, all generations, baby boomers, Generation X, the great generation, those of you guys that are still left, generations X, Y, Z, and Alpha, is don't exaggerate. An example of one of the great benefits of having a philosopher around is coming up with these kinds of realizations, which is that you should avoid the words always, never, and but because they're exaggerations of time. Always was before we were born, and it will be after we die. Never, same case. But, with but, usually we mean and. As a conjunction, we could either end the sentence, and we usually mean and, we usually mean to add to what we've said before. But implies an exception and hides evil. When you're gonna try to find somebody trying to prove something to you, and that when it's not really true, they're going to be using the words but, as well as words like just and perhaps even little. So these are words to avoid. Imagine uh, I always do the dishes, you never do the dishes. Or, this is much more constructive. You did the dishes once and we moved in. We're moving out now. Could you do the dishes again? Saying that you never do the dishes allows them to misbehave that you didn't share the truth with them. And the behaviors that usually seem to come up with that are ones that you wouldn't like as far as cooperation. And a big part of this is cooperation um, and not sabotaging our future. As I said, 385,000 people born per day, either on this take or another one on planet Earth. 385,000 people per day. That's a lot of people. Um, I'm prior military. You can find these videos by YouTubing my name, Derek Dunham, DerekDunnom. They're called First I'm Your Philosopher, and this is the prologue episode. If you look at Generational Leadership, episode 3, which is about 10 minutes, it's mostly made for listening to, but I explain in there how strongly I feel about this problem, which is that I would give my life for it in a way that was kind of connected with my military job. And may take your breath away depending on how you feel about death, or it might not. Um, that happened quite a while ago before I started making plans. And some of the stuff that you'll find in the videos, Generational Leadership 1 through 4, the first 3 of which are about 10 minutes. First one describing how easy it is to get a vasectomy. Second one, how to organize concerts. And then the third one shares a bunch of my philosophy as well as my plan that I've come up with for how we can get ourselves out of the mess that we're in, which is being stuck from every single way from what came before. Uh, I'll have a video coming out soon called, I think it's the Philosopher Show episode 4 about voodoo or transgenerational trauma for statements that have been left around. A lot of them to do with name calling None of them to do with don't run our planet out of gas. We don't have any artifacts in our language about that. Um, best thing I've come up with uh, for the that we're running out of gas, because some people will tell us that they aren't, that we aren't. And this is traumatic to the truth, whether it's true or not. And I have called Congress people, governors, and can't seem to get a statement from them on paper, although they'll say, of course, everybody in the world would think that it's a problem for the depletion of gas and oil. None of them will write down on a piece of paper that says, this is a problem, so you can tell people to shut the fuck up who tell you that, no, we're not going to run out of oil and gas. What they're talking about, these are usually baby boomer men, is in their lifetime. They're not worried about it in their lifetime. Uh, or that maybe somebody like me, that perhaps some sort of prophecy that baby boomers knew of, that people born on a certain date, perhaps the signing of the Civil Rights Act, that's why I believe that this might be me, um, that they believe that somebody's going to come along and fix this. To get this thing going, when you're at the center of what I feel that I'm at, which either feels like a dead pool or a prophecy or something like that, where nobody seems to think that there's a problem. This seems to be a state that, or like that everybody has dementia or something like that. Um, Here is the video series to kind of clear those things up and to point out that even if I am the one that this prophecy states, which I certainly seem to have the background for it and the fortitude, but that I can't do it by myself. Um, so making a resolution and then having something to do after it. That's the aims of generational leadership videos, as well as this series. Whatever occurs to me will go in here to get you close to the state of something where all the religions are important. In particular, there's two concepts with Scientology, of which I'm a Christian. I don't really identify as Scientology, but the prologue page of L. Ron Hubbard's Dianetics says, and Christians would do well to keep this in mind, but don't continue reading if you don't understand what a word means. The Christians would do well to learn the word licentiousness, which is in the list of things that Jesus says not to do, but I polled Christians for a good year, and none of them seemed to know what it meant. Strange. So there's another concept in Scientology that I've only read the first 140 pages of that book, as I've read the first 140 pages of the Quran. I've gotten a good idea of what those books aren't, as claimed by other people. I know what those books aren't, and they're just clarifications of truth and this sort of thing. But within the first 140 pages of Dianetics is something called a clear. And this is somebody who has all the barriers out of the way. Now, I suspect the baby boomer men that are claiming that the gas and oil isn't going to run out want to get back to happy fun time, right? Uh, because of their state, which is drunk on compound interest, high on pharmaceuticals, suffering from chivalry. Because of these states, they're not going to want to concentrate on anything related to a problem. They're getting close to retirement age, which means that their minds have been numbed by useless work over the years, such that they're not capable of abstract thought for any length of time. So what they're going to do is tell you a quick lie that's true for them, but has an implication on time that the gas isn't running out. The gas is certainly going to run out, um, based on not TED Talks, because I haven't found one of those either that anybody has conclusively said that the gas is going to run out. A lot of these talks are circular, some of them ending with describing why it's not going to run out and talking about abalone shells and how they're made of layers. some with graphs about things that aren't related. A lot of these things seem similar to what I saw in South Park in relation to the O.J. Simpson trials, I'll say, is the Chewbacca defense. They bring up something to distract you with, uh, to keep talking and lull you into unconsciousness. I'm trying to get you out of unconsciousness and to be clear and to get the barriers out of the way to be able to wake up enough to do some simple things to bring us to a much brighter future to where at any point, and some people aren't going to want this. This is one of the barriers to be able to go out your front door and find the migration path, green heading west towards wilderness, the west coast. And if you're in the United States, if you're lucky enough to be in the United States, yellow to go towards the city. Yellow is the friendship color. Blue, the north color towards ice. Red, the heat color towards warmer climates. What time of year is it? That's the direction you should be migrating in. Uh, you'll hear me bring up if you put it in random spots to the generational leadership videos the word Messiah. Um, talking more in practical terms, Merriam-Webster has a second definition of the word Messiah, which is the professed leader of a cause. The cause that I am professing myself, since I haven't found anybody else, but this video is an attempt to find them, is no more children, no more conceptions. Don't worry, children. We're not going to take away any children from the earth. Everybody that's already here is supposed to be here. What we should do, though, is have the adults stop conceiving babies to the tune of 385,000 per day so that we can have a viable future for the people that are already here, as well as the descendants of, hopefully we have another generation after Generation Alpha, right? So, because of the military experience that I mentioned and my dedication to the future of a viable future for the human race, one of the things that I could do, the next thing on my list is to go to the closest fort here, Fort Snelling, and to talk to a military chaplain specifically to gain access to the general of that army base to get a statement from the general that says, yes, depletion of gas and oil is a problem. Maybe a comment about that being the start of wars or not. We only have 2,500 people left in Iraq, as I understand it, and that America gets most of its gas and oil from Canada. We, however, don't give anything to anybody else. The rumor was that was software development. That's an unviable. Uh, all of the software company CEOs, the ones that know how to program anyway, and the executives of those companies should be worried about the future of America because what they're holding, the Googles, the Facebooks, the whatevers, is something that could be learned in an afternoon by a secretary, and that's a standard of coding in these places. Is that the secretary, the receptionist, could maintain this code and and update it. Uh, that the people getting the like Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, getting the people onto Facebook was the only problem. That anybody who's competent enough, uh, a lot of these executives, I swear that they haven't spent an afternoon talking to any of these people, or they haven't been shown the right code blocks to show how little that these billion-dollar companies are actually contributing. Perhaps the storage of the data on the stuff that they're making, but I believe that most of the layman folks that don't know programming are under the incorrect belief, and this is getting a barrier out of the way, that there's some sort of magic going on to make Facebook happen or to make Gmail happen. There isn't. It's pretty simple. I'm going to teach some elders to do it pretty soon. Um, Again, adoption of getting people on it is the big thing. Adoption of the idea where there's been lies and misinformation before, unless there isn't. It would be really great that I didn't have to go to sleep and wake up thinking about the depletion of gas and oil and the hell that would be created on Earth for the 385,000 people born every single day, that this wouldn't turn into a flaming inferno of hell when the gas runs out. Just about every country on Earth has already reached peak oil. Iraq and Canada are two of the last ones. Having children right now is fucking dangerous, you dumb motherfuckers. This is why. Oops. This is what I could do. This is what I'm doing as the prologue of First I'm Your Philosopher, in lieu of, instead of getting a statement from a general. If you believe high school physics and that we're on a planet circling the sun, flat earthers might say if we're twirling around, if we're rotating around so fast in a circle around ourselves, around the planet, and that's rotating at over 100,000 miles an hour, how come there aren't people flying off the face of the earth? It would be a fucking joy to me to realize that we aren't running out of gas and oil. Carl Sagan's video that I'm about to play for you says that we're not going to get any more resources. Moving ourselves from this planet is not a viable option. Watch Martian with Matt Damon about how hostile other planets are to human life, and to touch down resources from somewhere else to here would involve a pretty major operation that wouldn't make any sense to rape other planets the way that we're raping planet Earth. Here we go. Here's Carl Sagan explaining it.
Particular interest.
From this distant planet.
But for us, it's different.
Here's planet Earth.
Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering. Thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines. Every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization. Every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings. How eager they are to kill one another.
One fucking person with this fucking story.
Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not,
nowhere on TED Talks are they fucking agreeing with this.
is where we make our stand. It has
It's where
been
we make
said
our stand.
astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
Who is the person that's going to come up and say, no, we're not going to run out of gas? If I could just stop that with this video so that people will question this person.
Wow. Look at this. 90.
To question that Asperger's response, that asshole response, that selfish response of transgenerational trauma exercised upon the children of planet Earth by our elders. That would be really great. The population explosion problem exacerbated by the depletion of gas and oil, kind of given an idea of by Carl Sagan's pale blue dot, is both a blessing and a curse. There are other problems on Earth, including shelter, food, and clean water, that every person born needs some of that. But that the gas and the oil would make places unlivable. The war that Russia and Ukraine are having. Russia is invading Ukraine because it's too fucking cold to live in Russia without gas and oil. Is that inhumane? Of course, war is always bad, right? Sharing coastal regions with other people is important because those are the areas that we can live in without depleting resources that we can't replace. That once they go through an internal combustion engine, they're gone. Not collected in any way. They're just destroyed. Billions of little tiny fossils that turn into gas, if you believe high school science, if you believe what they told us, are gone. Never used it, never to be used again. You are the leak. It's not safe for you to have children, and it's especially selfish of you to have children, to conceive children. Children that are already there are already there. For you to conceive children and to not sterilize, for you to conceive children is incredibly selfish because hopefully they're going to live longer than you did, than you do, right? All right. It's always my goal to get you to watch another video. Some of the videos that you see on First Time Your Philosopher, they're going to be funny. The second one may make you think that this isn't a serious show. I have to mix the serious with the funny, and this is what I'm calling the philosopher's conundrum. That when I have to bring truth into the light to illuminate, fuck the Illuminati. Who gives a fuck? To bring the truth into the light, that you're going to want to go away from that. It's an uncomfortable position to be in, to not have a solution that's better than what you already have. It's human nature to not want to have less than what we've had before. And the transition to this 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 bigger world is going to include things that are going to seem at first unfathomable, and you're going to say it's because they're unsafe, that you're not going to want to migrate from places by walking, especially if you're unfit, that you're not going to want to migrate because it's going to be unsafe to go out there. Single family homes and dwellings that are dug in are much, 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 much more conducive to sex trafficking and sex slavery than if you had an institutional housing existence where you minimize the things that you just needed for yourself, that when you went to someplace else that they had board games, video games, sports games, other people to play them with, music studios, this sort of thing. If that's the goals that we're working towards, is to be entertained in these different places, that when we transform the schools, after we pause the population to help the Pope out, then all we have to do in those places is label certain rooms, certain kinds of music. So there's not even any disagreement as to what happens when you go in this room. You start playing that kind of music as a musician, and these are transitioning things, and you have doubts about, but that there are musicians that can transition you to being able to be a rock star yourself, and having this be the way that you spend your time instead of what I see everywhere in America is the only thing left is to walk around in the streets between single family homes that have no trespassing signs on them. The Homestead Act was the reason that they could have these places in the first place, and it was to improve the space for the community, and all they've done is block it off. You can't go anywhere anymore. You can't park anywhere anymore. Having children is a non viable future, minus a prophecy that everybody seems to think it's going to be okay. The contingency of collective consciousness that's gone off from this is dementia. The collective consciousness tangent that's gone off from this is Asperger's, coming up with solutions like this, potential solutions like this that aren't viable. I would love to be connected to other people thinking about our future beyond the next quarter, beyond your next financial statement, beyond your viable future, for other people that God, Gaia, the Holy Spirit, whoever has shown. I used to work as a software developer. I used to make over $100,000 a year. That there's not a viable future to go out and, as the baby boomer elders are telling us, get a job. Unless there's something else going on besides an economy, if these are corporation towns or something like that, and they're lying about getting into them, um, there's a possibility there that going out and getting a job proves that you're not lazy. I've worked for 30 years myself, 15 years getting into the software development industry, 15 years in the software development industry as a manager of a small team built around me because of my expertise in maintaining. I worked between development and operations, keeping the servers running that hosted CourtLink and then LexisNexis software. The task of my job as a manager was, if our website goes down once, that's okay. But after it went down that once, we should know why it went down, and my team prevented that thing from ever happening again. There's many other people that are sitting at desks enjoying extravagant lifestyles on the coasts, non-coastal areas, and on Midwestern areas. Midwest might as well mean non-coastal, that are gaining access to these great resources of being able to go out and eat whenever the heck that they want and these sorts of things, while not actually doing anything at work, or maybe being fooled with these complex sets of code that aren't the real ones that they use. Um, and there's a purpose for this, which is to keep intelligent people occupied in the face of boredom. This could be the goal of religion, that if you educate people, if you put upon them the curse of knowledge, that what are they going to do with the rest of their lives when they're looking down the barrel of 70, 80 more years, if they live to 100, of what are they going to do with their time when they have trouble just getting through a moment. And the best that I can do in this prologue video, so I can keep it alive, that we have problems ahead, is to give you something to deal with dementia and with Asperger's, so that you don't go off on a tangent, so that you can stay conscious and stay with us while we solve these problems, which basically involve either realization of Carl Sagan's pale blue dot, which I just showed you, or statements and speaking to her by me, where I show you a statement from the local general that says gas and oil is a problem. Continue on with the landmark forum to get your industrial strength uh, therapy over a 3-day weekend to clear you of your barriers, so that we know that you're conscious and that you're not stuck on things like name calling, like my family is, like my friends are. This is the topic of First I'm Your Philosopher, Episode 3, Voodoo or Transgenerational Trauma. The big one is this ridiculousness: men only want one thing. Directly on from that is use the word cunt and you lose a conversation. It's a bad idea if you want to get laid to use the word cunt. You can't insult a woman and then expect to get laid. It sounds like fatherly advice, or perhaps instead of the frustrating meaning that men have when they use it, woman, you're being frustrating. You're being a cunt. Where they use the word dick, asshole, whatever, that's just fine. But there's language artifacts that say, passed down, at least from the baby boomers, maybe further, that men only want one thing. So therefore, women treat men as pieces of meat. Meat market is completely acceptable. That since Generation X was raised by its mothers, they've taken this advice that men only want one thing and turned that into, I don't want my son saying, insulting a woman, because he's not going to get with a woman at that point, and then he's not going to be happy. That there's somehow an association with those things. I'm a completely straight man. Um, I've tried to stay outside of relationships because women are compromised in the way that they don't think about abstract thought that often, or often enough to be able to step outside the things that just displease them. Now, I believe that there's a connection. I didn't mean to get into this in this prologue, but that there's a connection with, let me put this together. So, men mean the word cunt as a synonym for, as the same as frustrating. One of the possibilities why women could react so strongly is the language artifact that says It says right in our language in an idiom, which is either voodoo or transgenerational trauma. Idioms. You got to work. You got to make hay when the sun is shining. You use the word cunt, you're going to lose an argument, right? These are temporary situations. Is this an acceptable or an unacceptable reaction that for the rest of your life that you hold a vendetta because somebody called you frustrating once? Oh, I mean a cunt, mom. I'm hoping to have a reunion, not in the sense of, and then I'll end with Derek's Cones, Koans. I'm hoping to have a reunion that includes everybody on the solution to get us to a brighter future. What is directly in the way is voodoo, transgenerational trauma, or idioms. Now, when something happens that pisses you off, consider this. Is it permanent or temporary? When somebody calls you a name, the best reaction to have is to not let them antagonize you. To call them a name caller. Now, when black people or wiggers have called me bitch ass nigger over and over again, I thought to myself, is this situation permanent or temporary? Like chickens who don't mind it when it rains because they have feathers that repel the rain. So, no, chickens don't mind the rain. Or soup is not for dogs because they don't normally eat it and they don't need anything else. It's part of another advice. If the cat gets out, what do? You leave the front door open if there aren't any other pets around so the cat can get back in. As our animals sit inside all day long and stare at shelves and can't get up to the windows to look out the window, and we yell at them because they're begging by sitting there and looking at us, their best activity during the day when we finally sit down and are at home and we eat at a table and a dog looks at us. I told a young man recently, I had to do a little bit of drama. He said, it's bad that dog's looking at you, right? Well, in terms of dogs begging and to bother you while you're eating the much better food than they're eating, part of that is them staring at you. Now, when you've worked 40 hours and you come home and you're the lord of the home, this is close to a dog begging. So what do? You train them because you haven't got anything else to do. They're not supposed to stare at you. Put a piece of food on their nose. See if they eat it. This kind of bullshit. That's it's an elevated ego, and this is Asperger's is an elevated ego with somebody who doesn't know how to listen or ask questions, like most of the people I know that don't ask questions, but rather that they assume or just guess, and that they're much more comfortable in that mind space for just stopping, which is what I believe judgment is stopping short of the truth. That judgment is stopping short of the truth. Uh, Getting way off topic here, but so is name calling? Here we go. Name calling is unacceptable. This is more or less an idiom of the language. Think about the things that are important to you right now. Think about those things while I bring up this song for you, think about those things that are important to you. That you can focus your mind on to get out of your unconsciousness. And here's your respite. Here's the reason why you shouldn't feel bad. And part of what I'm doing is trying to end capitalism to help people realize that it's a non-viable future in capitalism. I tried to share with a young man once, of which I was his stepfather. First, I'm your philosopher before I'm your stepfather, your friend, or your brother. Uh, that people working people getting out of high school and working for 5 years is much, much, much more work than we need for the entire world to enjoy a much, much better life. That we could all go to areas that had snowmobiles for a local company here, Polaris. That we could go to a place if we wanted to snowmobile where you could ride a snowmobile for a couple hours a day and there wouldn't be a problem. Even with the gas and oil depletion problem as exasperated by the population explosion problem, that if you walked to the places, if you migrated to these places and didn't have to use your car to run to the store to get stuff for dinner, that was available through one shipment per week, per day, whatever, to wherever you were staying at, that would be enough to not waste a bunch of gas. And that actually, instead of using the gas that you use to go to the grocery store to get that little temporary buzz out of the freedom of being away from somebody telling you what to do, that you could go to a specific town like Las Vegas and be part of a script in a motor movie like happened in the 70s and be a stunt car driver. But you'd have to walk there. Now, it's better to walk in the desert at night than it is during the day. But what you do during the day is not have to give a 30-minute blowjob to some guy to be able to have a domicile, a place to sleep by yourself or with your partner when you went to a place where they used gas rather than wasting gas in a single occupancy vehicle to get to someplace on a 10-hour drive. That you made it part of your year, that you planned out your year, that you said, I want to stunt drive this year. I want to zip line down the Grand Canyon. I want to snowboard in all of these places. That there's a way for you to do that so you're not wasting. People get certain glee out of wasting these days. I've seen it in destitute situations and homeless villages and stuff. People have thrown food away right in front of me, and they get glee out of this. It's because there's not a goddamn thing to do in capitalism. It's reached its fucking event horizon. It's done. It doesn't make any sense. Just like this song by the Bottle Rockets. And this advertisement. How it started. Vista Print. All right, skipping that. This is what adults go through, children. This is what you're looking forward to when you don't say, I'm willing to open up our school to homeless people who will soon be called travelers, where squatters are there facilitating the facilities, and that you're not going to get, and that the type A women don't have to worry about getting raped because there's dating solutions as well. I skipped a lot of the song, but it doesn't matter. It's all the same. 40 years. That's why we're unconscious. You're drinking on your weekends. What else do you do? Gotta get up, cause I gotta go to work, cause I gotta get home, cause I gotta go to sleep, cause I gotta go to work. This is your future, kids. You don't listen to the fucking prophet in the house. Nobody else is talking about this stuff. I must be the one saving you from this fucking future.